Yes, the difference between these two paintings is a decade of practice, but I can show you the things I learned that helped the second one look so much better. I'm going to share with you 3 common problems that beginners face when painting watercolors and how to fix them. Mistake number 1, incorporating complex or overly colorful backgrounds. The solution is to simplify your backgrounds. In this example, this background is just too busy and it's distracting from the subject. Now I aim for simpler backgrounds using some fun techniques. I pull color, I create color runs, I splatter with a toothbrush or a brush, I put in a simple shadow or some quick brush strokes. A background can indeed enhance the subject, such in this example of a spider and an elephant, the yellow-green in the background of this bird painting, the gray behind this cat, the blue behind this seagull, the shadow underneath this raccoon, and even the suggestion of a couch and a simple prop in this painting of a dog. Simplifying your background to enhance the subject is the key. Now, I do want to say that there are artists out there that do have success with more complex backgrounds, but typically these backgrounds will be in the same color family as the subject itself. It's not going to be competing with the colors, and they're going to keep the highest level of detail and the most contrast in the subject itself and not in the background. The second problem that a lot of beginner artists face is using a non-harmonious color palette. The difference between these two original examples is pretty obvious. In my old painting, I didn't plan my colors. I just painted what I saw in the dog, the whites and the browns and the pinks. And then I thought, well, hey, let's have fun with some color and do kind of a nature-y background with green and blue. I didn't plan my colors, and you can tell. This newer version of a similarly looking dog is more successful because I have a harmonious color palette. I focused on warm browns, golds, purples, and pinks, colors that work and look really good together. Here are a few tips to plan your colors so that they work really well in your paintings. My best tip is to use a minimal palette of paints. Now, a lot of artists do have success using all the colors under the sun, or a palette of 20 colors or more. But typically these artists know really well how all these colors work together and are able to limit themselves within that palette of a larger amount of colors. So when they're working on a specific painting, they're basically limiting their colors for that painting, even though they have access to so many more. I share the exact colors I use in the palette and how I set up my palette with these 7 colors that work really well together in my free PDF supply list that you can get at paint333.com. My second tip is to find inspiration. If you see paintings or art or even reference photos where the colors look really striking, start with that. You don't have to start from scratch. Use that inspirational palette for your next painting. I also love to do a color pop in a painting where I'll incorporate a color, but only in one area of that painting. Oftentimes I'll do this with cobalt teal in the eyes of one of my pet portraits, and then I won't put cobalt teal anywhere else in the painting, and it'll really attract a lot of attention to the eyes. And because eyes are so important in my pet portraits, I'll often help them pop in a subject's painting by putting the complement to the eye color, which is usually brown. So brown, gold, yellow, opposite of that is blue, bluish purple, and I'll put that bluish purple in the body of the subject so that the eyes stand out more, and that I won't put that eye color in the body of the subject. You can see that at work in this portrait of Molly, how her brown eyes just pop because her body is mostly blue. The third and final problem beginners face is that they're relying on techniques that make their painting look tight. They're having their brushes do the heavy lifting, applying paint directly to dry paper. The thing about watercolor, the thing that makes watercolor amazing, is water. My top tip is to practice techniques that bring out the best qualities of watercolor. Bonus is that this will make your paintings looser. The aha goal of every watercolor artist out there. I have 5 techniques to show you to help you do this right away. Dropping in water, dropping in color, scraping, using a grainer brush, and glazing. You can see how in this portrait of Lakota that I started by painting this purple and this blue directly onto dry paper. But once I dropped in water and pushed that water around a little bit, it ended up drying in a really beautiful way. It went from tight to loose just by adding water. The magic of adding water happens when the painting is still wet or when it's almost dry. That's when you'll get things like pigmented edges, veining, blooming, and intense granulation. If you are loving what you're learning in this video and wish that I offered more, I do. I would love to have you join us in our Studio Family membership right here on YouTube. You can click the join button and get access to 2 exclusive member-only paint-alongs every single week. Members also get to help me choose what I paint each month, get access to monthly supply giveaways, and enjoy community in our private Facebook group. I'd love to have you join us. Now, I drop in color all the time, constantly, in every painting I paint. After all, it is step 2 of my 3-step process. I teach my 3-step process along with the 3 principles and the 3 properties and 13 watercolor techniques in my Paint 333 beginner program. That whole entire program is free here on YouTube. Step 2 literally is dropping in color. And you can see in this montage of painting snippets that that's exactly what I'm doing. Dropping in color in a wet area on a painting instead of just directly painting a color onto dry paper will allow your paint to do really cool things in dry, looking looser versus tight. The third technique I use in basically every painting I paint is called scraping. I usually use a palette knife for this, and I'll scrape when the paint is almost dry to either reveal the paper underneath the paint and create a lighter line, or create an indent in the paper that the paint then seeps into to create a darker line. This is just a really dynamic way to create line work in your portrait. For me, that's usually fur patterns to break up kind of brushstroke shapes that you typically would rely on to paint pets. Next, we have the grainer brush. And I have a whole video about grainer brushes because they're so essential to pet portraits. It's just a brush where the bristles are a lot more sparse at the top than they are at the bottom. This allows you to hold a lot of color or water, but create kind of sparse, hairier shaped brush strokes. It's absolutely essential if you paint fur, feathers, or foliage. It can create short fur patterns, long fur patterns, curly fur patterns, and just really fun looking brushstroke shapes. And the final technique to help you loosen up and create paintings that don't look so tight is glazing. Glazing is just applying paint over paint that has already dried to create another layer of color. I employ glazing in every painting I do, typically having one color for the shadow side of the portrait and a different color for the highlight side of the portrait. You can see in this example how I'm glazing with yellow to emphasize the highlight side in this dog portrait. I have a whole other video about glazing, and all the links for the things I've mentioned in today's video will be in the video's description. That's it for today. Happy painting!